G'day everyone, Sam here, also known as Ranger Bricks. You might have seen some of my big brick builds on Instagram, and you're probably wondering how I make them. So here's a behind the scenes look on how it's done.
Right, let's get started. I'm going to be quickly introducing the tools that we're going to be used to make a big Lego model. The first one is Blender. Blender is an open source 3D software that's been around since the mid-90s. Now, you probably noticed I'm using version 2.90, even though there are versions that are newer. This is only because the plugin that I'm using unfortunately doesn't work for newer versions at this point. But the developer is working on updates, so that's a good thing. And a bit about what I'm using for a plugin. The plugin is called Brickr. Brickr is created by Christopher Gerhardt in America, and he's been using for a few years, using it to create all sorts of amazing, wonderful big brick models. Recently, he's also gotten into actually selling them. It's opened Brickr builds and is basically selling instructions on how to make your own big Star Wars heads and other things. So yes, this is not just a nifty little plugin that just makes big brick models for looks. It can actually be used to create a fully featured model for your own. And I'm going to give you a very brief walkthrough on how. So I'm going to begin this by importing a model from Mechabricks, and here is our little space minifig. And one little thing that happened through the import is everything is separate. Now you can import an OBJ file with everything intact, but there's a bit of a problem. First of all of these pieces intersect in some way. And this is a little bit tricky for Brickr because it will sort of get confused by how does this intersect with that and how do these intersect with that. So what I'm going to have to do is clean up this model and simplify it. Effectively make all these sort of hollow parts solid, or as we call it, a watertight mesh or a manifold mesh, as you might have heard in some 3D programs. So I'm just going to isolate this leg here to give an example, and go into edit mode, and we're going to go to select loops, edge loops, and again for the other half of this bit, and then press F to close up that hole, and again for the underside of the foot, very simple, and of course for all the other bits on the inside. So select loops, edge loops, pretty simple, select again, and for this bit we will just have to sort of pick every vertice edge and go. So that's pretty simple. Rinse and repeat where required. So of course I have one prepared earlier just to give you a bit of a walkthrough, and here it is. And as you can see, all of the legs are closed up, there's no holes on the inside, and the same goes with the torso, there's no neck. And I've removed all of the inner tubing and all the other pieces, the same with the arm. That's it by itself, and the hand is by itself, and you'll see the helmet here has been closed off, and the head has sort of only had the most essential features extracted from it, because what we really don't want is all these excess bricks sort of hanging around the hollow parts of a helmet. So that is that, and that's pretty much where we start. So what we're going to do next, we are going to brick it, and I'm going to go into my little pre-prep mode, pre-prep fig, and as you can see, I've joined them all up by simply selecting everything and pressing Ctrl J, or go to Object Join, and this means it is completely locked. I cannot change it. So if you are planning to make later changes, sort of do what I've done here and duplicate your containers so you have some safeties. So now we're going to have a look at Brickr, and if you're wondering where is it hiding, press N and it will open up your settings, and all of your little plugins may rest here in the side menu, and you're going to get a bit of a quick neck reading this. So we're going to go through the settings that I've made up for this to give you a bit of an idea of how this program works. Starting off with the dimensions. So these are in studs. We've got 60 long, wide and high. So it's a fairly substantial model. The other thing I want to tick is split model. This is going to come in handy for later on when we start detailing and painting some of these bricks. So if you untick it, it will just create a solid model. But if you tick it, every single brick will be selectable. Now this could chew up a bit of memory. So if you're on a computer with low memory, it might be worth scaling this model down so that you use less bricks. But look, experiment. Maybe your computer can take it, maybe it can't. Your mileage may vary. The other thing I'm looking at is shell thickness. Now this is essentially how thick the brick shell is. So you can kind of imagine this being a little bit like a chocolate Easter egg, where we have the thickness of a hollow vessel. So this is going to be about 2 studs wide. I could probably increase it to 4. This will give it a bit more stability. Let's see what happens. Brick types. We're going to be using bricks and plates. This is going to use a combination of bricks and plates, and it's going to take a little bit longer to process, but the advantage is I've got a bit more room to detail things like faces and the logo. Now what I've also done is modified the width and depth to a lower number than the default. So this means that the widest brick is going to be about 2, longest is going to be about 8. And this means it's going to hopefully create bricks that we can actually buy. The one sort of downside of this program is while it may mathematically generate legitimate bricks, it doesn't actually know whether the brick can exist in real life. So you might end up, with a 1x12 blue that actually doesn't exist, or even something simple like 3x3 blue, which doesn't exist. So this is a way to sort of try and keep things functional when we start getting to the end business. Detailing, studs are optional. You can actually turn them off, or you can put them on all bricks. I'm going to leave them to exposed bricks only, just to save a little bit of memory. And then the underside, meaning what's on here, well, we're going to have high detail or low detail, or flat if you don't want to have extra polygons. And then finally, bevel bricks. I'm going to turn this off, but I'm going to be turning it back on later. But this is nice for a little bit of extra detailing if you want some high realistic looking bricks instead of just a super perfect flat. So that's about it for detailing. And another quick thing to note in brick types, just before I forget, you can also do other things like cones, cylinders, flat plates, studs, hollow state, and round 1x1 tiles. So look, play around at your leisure. Now let's move into the next bit, booleans. This is kind of handy and it's new for, say, more complex models. So if I wanted the arm to sort of not create any bricks where it intersects with the hand, then I can just assign that to that if this was a unconnected model, but it isn't. And for the point of demonstration, I'm just going to keep things simple, so we sort of won't play with that one. Merging is kind of interesting. This will attempt to clean up the amount of bricks the algorithm generates. Now, random is pretty much if it fits, it sits. So you'll end up with a lot of 1x1 to sort of fill in the gaps. I like to use greedy because it tries its best to sort of keep things a little more neater. It also uses less bricks. That might be handy if you're using a complex model. Now, materials is a rather fully featured corner which has a lot of settings that could confuse you. Now, by default, it starts on RGB. And RGB will attempt to cleverly pick up what color this model is and what color the final brick will be. However, it's going to basically use the same color. It can use any color of the rainbow. It will not matter if it doesn't exist in the Lego palette. ABS is a bit of a side plugin or an add-on to Bricker, and what it will do is import a whole series of actual Lego palette colors. And in this case, when we get Bricker figure, it will go, oh, okay, this red is that blue is that yellow is that, and it will make it relatively accurate to Lego's palette. And then support is the ability to do internal supports. I'm not really going to show it for this feature because it's a little bit more confusing than it sounds. However, if you're planning to build this properly, it might come in handy in creating lattices that stretch across your model. And then finally, advanced. This is very complex, but one thing to point out is down under ray casting, there's two ways of sort of working out the best way to calculate bricks. By default, it will be high efficiency, but I normally put it on X, Y, or Z. This will sort of try its best to figure out all the nooks and crannies of this model. It's very handy for curved pieces like this helmet and the tanks, so we'll leave it on that. And yes, it will take up a little bit more time than usual, but I think we are ready, and I'm now going to hit the button and we're going to brick. And so here is the finished model, and as you can see, it's done a pretty good job by default, and this is why I've had to fill in all the gaps to make this model solid as possible. However, you can see it looks a little bit weird in some places like the eyes, and I reckon there's a few bits here that could be filled in. And of course the logo I think needs a bit of cleaning up. And luckily Bricker comes with a few tools. There's a little side add-on called Brick Sculpt, and this gives us a few options to sort of help fix our models in case, it produces a rather weird result. So first I'm going to use the draw and cut tool. And this is pretty simple. I want to add bricks. So I'm just going to click on the underside, like so, and keep going down. And yes, Sally is a little bit slow, because it effectively is trying to redraw the entire brick matrix. So you have to be patient with this tool. So I'm just going to do this little piece on the side just to give you a bit of an example. However, if I was doing this properly, I'd probably be spending a bit more time going over the model and cleaning up any little pieces I don't really want. But as you can see, it's pretty smart. It will sort of merge those plates into a brick. Now if I want to sort of make it look a little bit cleaner, I've got the merge tool. And that's just a simple act of clicking and dragging, and it will basically recalculate the width of these bricks and merge them where appropriate. As you can see, it's very handy if you realize there's some strange structural instabilities going on and you need to sort of fix things. The other thing we also have is the ability to delete bricks. And down here we've had some very strange little generations. We don't quite know why they've hung out in space, but computers do what they do. So I'm just going to remove them. Say this little bit over here, and that's good. And I'll start cleaning up those bits here and there, and these little ones over here. So as you are aware, I'm only doing this very briefly to give a bit of a demo on what can actually be done. If I had a lot of time on my hand, I'd be cleaning up all the little things like this. But as you can see, it's taking about a couple of seconds every time I remove one of these bricks, so I don't really want to take everyone's time, and I'll just sort of do what needs to be done on a pretty simple basis. So yes, as you can see, it has a very simple and pretty intuitive draw and remove. Now onto these little eyes. So I'm going to go to paint by pressing P, and I can simply hold down Alt and use a color picker. And I'm just going to sort of start drawing these eyes to be a little more roundish in the brick sense, and pick the black color and do the same on these, and do the same here, and get them nice and even, looking awesome. And then just finally clean up any bits I've missed and get rid of these weird little brown patches which we don't need. And then I might do a merge just to sort of clean up those bricks here, on down there, and down here. Okay, very good and very simple. And now I'm going to move on to the logo. Again, the same. I'm just using my color picker just to sort of fill in all these little details. And again, get the gold bricks and just get them touched up. Very simple, very quick. And again with the white, there, and just get those strange little results from misreading a JPEG, and just touching up the rest of the red. There we go. You can see it's very quick. And I press enter, disable that, and that is pretty much sorted. And one thing I quickly point out down here in the model info, it tells us we got 15,697 pieces. It's going to be about 3 kilos and looking to be about 81 centimeters high. So everyone goes, right, how do I actually build this thing? And what you do, you go down to Export L Drawer and you pick your file and go to Export. And now we're going to go to Studio where we can continue. And now we're going to go to Studio. So here we are in Studio, and it's pretty simple to get our big minifig in. We go to File, Import Model, we pick our file, and it loads. There we go. Pretty amazing. It's all there, it's all ready to basically be bought. So there's a few little things I'd like to check just before you jump into the Bricklink market and buy everything. Firstly, I like to click check issues. And what this will do is see whether all the bricks that we've generated can actually be bought. And already we have an issue. We don't actually have shiny gold in a lot of those sizes. So we're going to have to double click on our model and go down to select by color, click a gold brick and find something to replace it with. So I think what would work? Go down to all. What would work? Interesting one. Maybe dark orange. There we go. That's sort of close enough to the original space logo, even though it's not really what we like. And that's works. So as you can see here, we have every single brick all laid out, ready to go. So how do we actually go and order all this? Well, we can just go to Model Info, and this will give us a bit of an indication of what we've got to put in our wish list. So there's all our bricks and our amounts and our prices, and have a look at physical information. Again, it will tell us it's 81 centimeters high, just like in Bricker told us, and we've got the same weight and all the rest. So as you can see, it will actually translate correctly from Blender into Studio, even without having to modify any of the scene scale settings. So I'm pretty happy with that. So we're going to add to wanted list. And here we are in our wanted list. So I'm going to just call this, I don't know, something clever, big brick space, and verify items. And there we go. All of our pieces are there, ready, waiting to be bought. And we just simply add it to our wanted list. And we go view our little shopping list. And there we go. So if I wanted to buy all these, how much will this cost? Well, I'm going to hit buy all. And keep it to Aussies. And I'm just going to, oh no. Come on, not Germany. And I'm just going to auto select. And let's see what Bricklink gives us. Right. It's going to cost us about $1,300, and it's going to cover 41 domestics and 8 international shops in 47 unique lots. So, yeah, that gives you a bit of an idea on how you can make your own brick models and how you can order them to your home and start building your very, very, very big brick things.
Thank you for watching. If you want to see more of our work, please follow me at Ranger Bricks, and also do follow Krista Gearhart, creator of Bricker Builds at BBL Animation and at Bricker Builds. There's also links to Blender, Bricker and other programs mentioned in this tutorial below. Thank you so much, and I hope you enjoyed the rest of Brickvention.
Keep an eye on this playlist, subscribe and set reminders so you don't miss a thing for Brickvention Online.